Order. All right. I'm going to talk to you first about business hours. So, as I mentioned earlier, we've been doing time study on the people that we have and writing out duties, and we've met several times, and we kind of have determined that through the process of history, basically, things have evolved. I mean, we've had more people have left, some people have taken this particular assignment. And what's been left is a kind of a discombobulated system that is fairly inefficient, because not one person is doing all the human resources stuff, not one person is doing all the community and stuff, that kind of thing. I mean, it's kind of spread out amongst a lot of different people. So what we're trying to accomplish is to straighten that out by doing some reassigning and reclassifying and sharing. So as of right now, I mean, essentially what I'm talking about is there's a superintendent secretary, there's a payroll slash accounts payable person. We have a communications secretary, and past that, and a business manager we have had in the past. We don't have solid community ed slash early childhood coordinator. It's kind of piecemealed out, and a lot of the things we found that some of these other people are doing are things that high school, elementary secretaries do in most other schools. So anyway, what we are going to be recommending, I'll make this a little bigger so you can see, and I'll send this to you guys, but we kind of laid out job duties for a number of people. So we would keep the payrolls, accounts receivable. However, all of the human resources, the insurance items, the seniority lists, leave requests, that kind of thing, making accounts for new employees, things like that. Those things would go away to make that job more manageable. You can see there's still quite a list there. Rather than having a superintendent secretary, we're going to reclassify as an administrative assistant. And essentially what that person is going to do, we're going to eliminate the communication secretary that we currently have and tie in the jobs that a superintendent secretary would normally do, plus what she is doing right now, and take a lot of what that individual is doing, that position is doing right now. There's a lot of human resources, things in that with time off accruals and the ASOP management and such, smart HR. Those duties would go to a new human resources officer. That's actually the longest list amongst them. But this would really help in the HR department. I mean, hiring, managing employees, making sure that our employees have someone to go to for insurance questions, for benefits questions, making sure that when we hire somebody that the process is followed correctly, that type of thing.
So just to ask a question, the human resources person, that's a whole new position, or a whole new person? Is that what I'm understanding? Okay.
Well, I'll get to the numbers here in a little bit, but one of the things that the communications secretary was doing was some of the community ed work, scheduling of building facilities, any type of classes, collecting fees for early childhood, that kind of thing. We have been in discussions with Wasaga East and Virginia about and Logan for that matter, about the possibility of sharing one person for these things, for community ed and early childhood. That's nothing settled yet, but that is a possibility that's out there, because it's not really a full-time position in any of our districts. So looking into that, some of the duties that are currently being done by those three, like season ticket sales, creating athletic programs, our announcements out here on the TVs, and that would be done by secretaries. And then finally, we'd be looking at sharing a business manager and a bookkeeper with Virginia. Business manager would be their current person that they have. They would split time between the two districts and do big picture business manager type stuff, and we would hire a bookkeeper to do daily data entry, purchase recs, things like that, in both districts. So, what is all that compared to what we have right now? Basically, like I said, the payroll stays the same. The communications secretary position is eliminated and moved over into what's called an administrative assistant. We hire a human resources person. So we had 3 people. We still are having 3 people in that regard. We want to continue to look at our community ed program in early childhood to see if we can share. Don't have anything definitive right now, so in the interim we would continue to do the things that we're doing now. And then we would share a business manager and bookkeeper with Virginia. So, grand total, we had the first half, we had 3 positions, we're just reclassifying, we still have three positions. The new part is in the business manager. We had our own business manager, so we're gonna share a business manager and share a bookkeeper. The bookkeeper is gonna be between a $50,000 and $55,000 job. Our business, excuse me, our business manager was about a $63,000 position. Plus we're gonna pay $20,000 for sharing the business manager with Virginia. So all told, all of this that I'm talking about is gonna run us about $10,000 more than we're currently spending on our business office, if you guys decide to go that way. Where do we go from here? I'm gonna share this with you. Virginia is on board at this point for that agreement. We would hire the bookkeeper ourselves, and their employee would be the business manager, our employee would be the bookkeeper, just to keep things clean. So we're not passing money back and forth. Yeah, we would obviously have to create a contract for the business office, the 3 people that I mentioned, accounts payable, administrative assistant, and human resources. And just for a point of reference, I had mentioned before that the superintendent secretary probably today isn't what it used to be even 10 years ago, just because of technology. It's probably not a full-time job. Even Virginia has cut theirs in half now. Their superintendent secretary is actually going to be a half-time HR person as well. So this isn't, it might sound like I'm burdening one person, but it really had developed into what was not a full-time job. So by doing this, combining those 2 positions and taking some things, I think this makes our office a lot more efficient. And I guess I would recommend that we sign a 1-year agreement with, actually not even a 1-year agreement, till the end of the year agreement with Virginia, and work and evaluate it at the end of the school year, and yeah, it worked, no, we need to do something else, that kind of thing. Because it's probably our best bet for getting experience in that business manager office. We just like a lot of business managers out there, 3 ones that come to small markets like we are. You guys have any questions?
And ARC recommended the Virginia business manager, correct? And ARC has no investment in making that recommendation.
No, I ran this whole thing by Cindy, and she said this is gonna fix a lot of your problems. I ran it by our auditors, who, those of you who are new here, one of the things that we consistently get on our audit report is we don't have enough checks and balances in the business office just because there physically aren't enough people. This actually puts 5 different people looking at this and provides them. Whereas we only have 2 right now, so.
So with restructuring, and designating current jobs that are going on now into these 3 positions, are people gonna have to reapply for those positions, like?
No, I think that we move the people that we have right now. That's the fair thing to do.
It's really the right time to make a substantial change like this too, when
Yeah.
we've got fairly younger employees in those positions that aren't really stuck in a way of doing things too. So this would, be probably the right time to make this decision to realign.
So this'll, like I said, I'll send you this information. This will come up at the next board meeting, the first one in November, where you guys can make a decision and we'll move from there. That's all I have, unless you have other questions, we can move on to the next topic if you want. Kelly, I believe you wanted to talk about the track, so, I mean, it's
Yes,
your show.
thank you. Okay, yes, I have significant concerns that I feel that decisions, I know that there were safety issues. I do get that, like that whole wall thing. Not necessarily the track, I don't remember, and I apologize, I was not at the last safety committee, previous to putting in the sod. But I was at the one in the spring that we had, and the whole running into a wall, yes, that's a safety issue. I mean, that's a concern that I had. I mean, whether we actually had someone physically run into a wall or not, I do have issues with that. However, I don't know if we vetted this process. I do have a concern that we're impacting 75 kids in another sport. And I do have concerns that we're saying here, for this sport, we want to make sure that you guys have what you need and that you're safe, and then here, this sport, go run on the roads and go to, I mean, I feel like we're not addressing all, we're saying there's a safety issue here, but yet we're not talking about safety issues all across the board for everyone. And so I guess I don't know what was discussed regarding all options. Were there any other options that were discussed other than just sodding over the track? I don't know.
There wasn't.
There wasn't.
There was do nothing or sod over the track.
And what was wrong with do nothing right now? Other than that wall. I remember the wall. I guess I don't remember what the issue specifically was with the track. I don't remember us having that being discussed. I remember the wall specifically. I mean, that's a brick wall in your face. But I don't remember the track itself.
Well, I mean, is there regulations on what a playing surface needs to look like? No. I mean, we could asphalt that whole football field if we wanted to.
How do we get that sod out of there? I
Well,
mean, how do we roll it? I see it's dying already. I don't know what kind of preparation they made underneath it.
There's black dirt underneath it.
Huh?
There's black dirt
I mean,
underneath it.
how do we, as a board, come up with where we can have the best of, for both sports? What can we do?
I think before we start talking about removing the sod, we have to talk about options. I mean, what are the options available? I mean, taking the sod off is one option. It's gonna be an expense, because the sod obviously costs money to put the sod in there. But, what are our options? It's been discussed that the track athletes can go over to Virginia and practice in Virginia, and it would be, the 5 o'clock around time slot is what I've heard thrown around. What are other options? Because, as soon as the spring comes, they're gonna need somewhere to practice, and I don't like driving by kids when they're running on the highway. And the other day, I saw the cross-country coach driving on the shoulder with flashing hazard lights when those kids were running on the highway. I just, I think that's a liability as well. And I don't know, I mean, maybe the streets are a little bit safer, but on that highway, it's just,
I mean, if I may jump in after what you just said. If you live in Gilbert, you probably got this in the mail just recently.
I've heard about it. I didn't
The
see it, though.
southeast is looking at a new athletic facility, and, I mean, I think Ms. Kersey, intentions were good, but I think she made some pretty not colorful allegations in her emotional address to the board. But what I do agree with her is, I mean, she's said numerous times since she's addressed this board, is that the quote-unquote practice facility has been subpar for many years, and they've been making do. So I think the real conversation we're having, we keep talking about sod and the football field, but the reality is we're really not doing our kids a justice anyway. I mean, I walked that track the first time we heard about this sod thing, and I'm sure just like all of you, as you participated in track and field for the Franklin kids in the spring, and the thing is a mud hole. There's loose rock everywhere, and if anybody says that that's a great practice facility to begin with, I think you all just need to go home, because this isn't why we're here. I mean, the idea is we just need to figure out, we're really not giving our kids anything by, even if we rip the sod out there and we're just gonna go along and pat ourselves on the back, I think that's not the solution that we really should be looking for. I think to Brandy's point is they deserve better, and if it is, not on the highway or not on the road with flashing lights, and if there is an option, I mean, to what you said, I hear that we can't even host our own meets here. We have to host them in Virginia. I mean, if there's an option to have them practice on the same track that we're actually hosting our own meets on in the interim, until we as a school board get it together and stop fighting amongst ourselves and the public and the community and start making decisions for our kids that can look like this, I think it would be a great benefit to our community and our kids. And that being said, I hope this conversation is bigger than just sod.
I agree wholeheartedly, completely, but I think in the meantime, we're not gonna have immediate decisions that, I'm thinking immediately, we have 75 kids that I don't want to, I want them to know that our district cares about them and cares about what they have, and that their sport and what they do is just as valued as any other sport, whether they have 5 kids doing it or they have football players that have had a good couple of seasons and are churning out crowds. I want that value to be clearly there. However, I completely agree that I think if we have been making decisions and actually having these tough conversations that I think need to be made and need to be discussed, some of this stuff should be getting taken care of. And I do think that right now is the time that we start talking and we start planning and we start actively moving the school district forward. Because in the meantime, we keep wasting money like this. We keep wasting money on putting fixes in and putting temporary things and addressing building issues when we don't know for sure what is gonna be happening. And that is ridiculous, and we need to stop doing
And It's
this.
been going on for 42 years.
And enough is
You know,
enough then.
42 years.
Because I'm not signing on to say, well, it's been going on for 42 years, so it's okay for it to go on for 4 years while I'm
I know,
on the
I
board.
know, but proposals have been made to the district and the,
But we're
nothing
not,
has been done.
proposals so have been made to the district because this board is not acting on
They're not fit
anything.
well.
We are elected by
Mhm.
community members.
Mhm.
We are elected to make decisions. So let's make those decisions, put it back to the community to vote on and move this forward.
That's
We need to do
understandable.
our jobs. It is not enough to just sit back and say, well,
But why
the
didn't-
community
why didn't-
doesn't want to
but-
hear, we need to move it
But why
forward.
didn't the last proposal on the track, that Jeff, the thing that you gave to me, why didn't that go to the community? Why? Because there was no community input. You know?
Here's
I
what
mean,
I
how many
think.
of the people in the community saw the proposal I saw? You know what I'm saying, is you need, if you want this stuff to happen, you gotta get community buy-in. You can't just, you gotta get the people, you gotta get the townspeople from both communities excited that, hey, this is what we're doing, let's get some community input on
I
it.
don't think there's, for lack of trying, because Bill, you're at all these meetings, you
Mhm.
were at the one before we went, before we got elected.
Mhm.
People don't show up to the
I
meetings
know.
until they're upset about something.
That's right, you're right.
And I think the fact of the matter is, what we need to do as a board is we need to have a meeting to prioritize what's our priority. As far as the track is concerned, what's been done has been done. We need to come up with a solution for the spring. We're not gonna have a new track facility and new sporting facilities in the spring. So we need to come up with a plan for those athletes. Whether it's taking that sod off, having them go to Virginia and letting them know what the plan is and having open communication with them, or going to Masabi East, or whatever the case may be, we need to have a plan and we need to communicate that plan. And then, like I said, we as a board need to get together and figure out what is our priority. Because we talked about one campus versus two, it didn't go anywhere, and quite frankly, I don't think one campus is gonna get anywhere. And so we need to look at what can we do to possibly move forward with community buy-in. Whether, like I said, I mean, if we do something like a sporting facility in Gilbert and, bring the students over here for a campus, is that an option? Is that something that the community would like, because they won't feel as though, one campus versus the other, whether the campus for athletic facilities goes here and all the students go to Gilbert. I don't care, but we need to figure out what our priority is. Because I feel like we're just spinning our wheels and can't make any further decisions without acting on what we're gonna do with our buildings. Are we gonna remain two buildings? Are we gonna try to do an athletic facility in one town and the students' educational piece in another town? That's what we need to figure out.
Was that track eventually used for meets and everything, and or was it just a practice thing?
What track?
The existing one? that's
The
not-
existing one is just for practice.
Just a practice?
Yes.
Well, what about that area south of the football field? That's all level in there, can we lay a track in there and blacktop?
Doesn't fit,
Well,
it doesn't fit.
It wouldn't fit?
Track doesn't fit between the roads.
Well, then the
It
other
would
option,
have to go, is it north-south?
well, we got a big area in Gilbert. Right across from the school, right down there, it goes all the way down to that,
Won't fit there either.
the square footage in there is not enough.
I mean, personally, as a board member, I don't feel like I can be confident in any decision that we're making about an athletic facility or anything until we figure out what we need to do with the buildings. I don't like the idea of taking a school out of a town because it ends up a ghost town. I don't, so my thought was if we give and take and have an athletic facility built in, Evelyn or in Gilbert, and then the other town gets the school and the kids, at least there's still traffic of kids in that town.
Well, and honestly, I don't think when we looked at all the plans, one of the issues too is if we looked at one campus between either of the current campuses, we cannot have one of those campuses address all the needs for the athletic facilities issues. We don't, neither campus has enough of the square footage to address the building needs and everything that would be needed for the athletic facilities when we were talking about that part of it.
Well, is Mount Iron, with their new school, gonna build a track? Is that what-
No,
Is there a plan?
no, they're not.
No,
Mr. Perry just said no.
they're
But
not.
if the plan went through with school in one town and athletic facility in the other town, there would be enough square footage, correct?
Yes.
I mean, it's something that I feel should be looked at, and
We
it's a
can
collaboration.
look at that, it hasn't, it was discussed before you guys got here. And, correct me if I'm wrong, I kind of dismissed just because of the inefficiencies that it causes and transportation, but, we can get more solid numbers if the board wants.
What type of inefficiencies
Well, you're moving kids a lot more than you would if they were here, or there, either way.
Well, then you have duplication of green space. That was the biggest thing is for our Phi Ed programs for curriculum, we need green space on the campus at Holland's educational facility, right? And you still have an athletic facility. You can't dual use those facilities for the programs, if that makes sense, right?
Some,
But
I would think that there's some duplication, of course, but you're not building it to the level at the school. You wouldn't necessarily be building it to the level where you're needing to have an entire track necessarily, or you're not needing to have, to that degree. And, my other part is, it would be really nice to be able to host some
Sporting events.
significant sporting events and so.
Like I said, the only downside
Mhm.
is the transportation piece, and that may be minor.
But, if you look at it this way, and we're looking at carting our track and field kids to Virginia, or we're looking at Wasabi East, our tennis kids over into Virginia, or whatever the case may be, we're running kids around anyways. So I would assume that driving them to Gilbert, to our own athletic facilities, would be better than going all different routes. And maybe we can recruit some people.
And if we hold events, that should, I would think, help the communities on their businesses too.
Mhm,
I think so.
mhm.
You're correct that there are kids going every which direction, and it's not ideal right now. Because we have kids driving themselves, we have some district transportation. It's not great.
And, there was some suggestion or discussion about, can we have a collaboration with, city offices or the fire department or, a community hall or something to where we could get collaboration funds in building an athletic facility or adding on to our school district or whatever the case may be. But I think that we need to first prioritize what we as a board want to accomplish.
Well, I
Because I
think-
don't feel we don't have that right now.
I think part of the collaboration too is keeping in mind if, we're gonna go, granting it is very premature, but still, we're gonna go check out the Alexandria schools and looking at those academies, and part of theirs is they do collaborate and do some work with their technology schools for some of that crossing over for certain academies. So I
And you
think
know,
who knows on the possibilities.
Well, and then the
that
other
are
side of
there.
that too is, I mean, the very first day, like I brought up the last meeting with Virginia, we talked about a conversation of having a shared facility with Virginia.
Yep,
Dream building, big picture, I mean, the sky is the limit, I mean, is that reality? I don't know, but I mean, if we're not gonna take those conversations seriously, we probably shouldn't do them either, is the other part of that. I went to those thinking that, you know what, we're actually gonna attempt to try to do something. I would like to see, I mean, and then the city of Virginia came in the last meeting and kinda, you know, said what they did about their miners
miners building.
rebuild, and, I mean, I kinda think, I was just at the Sanford Center in Bemidji, you know, 2 weekends ago, and like, what in, I mean, like, their mini version of the deck, you know, it's just like a huge event center and all that other things, and I'm like, if the city of Virginia does pull something like that off, I mean, that would be a big thing for our region too, that would be central located, but I'm not trying to taboo any of the conversation, I'm just trying to say that all of this is part of the conversation that we need to.
Well, and that could be
Address-
certain pieces of
And
it.
it's, well, it all comes down to what's the benefit between our kids and the taxpayer,
Yep,
and that's what we're really here for, right? I
Yep.
mean,
And joint athletic venues can work, Duluth does it.
oh,
When I grew up in Duluth, we had one football field for 3 high schools. Public school stadium.
Oh, that was built recently, wasn't it? That's the right.
I graduated in '90,
Oh, okay.
and,
not that
Public-
recently.
I mean, they went from real turf to artificial, but East Central and Denville all shared that all through the 80s, 90s. So it can be done. What are you laughing at?
What about the,
But yeah.
what about the Virginia thing? I mean, that's kind of a, I mean, I just having hotels and having all that, you know, I'm not too, you're not gonna get much support out of me
You're
on
still
that.
wondering to see the
No.
plans?
well, me too.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, you're gonna have, they're gonna have all the ice, they're gonna have all the swimming, they're gonna have, I mean, yeah, I mean, that's a big savings to the district, but I just don't think, I mean, I think it would, you know, it would be nothing but financial gain for them as a community. You know, through their taxes and through the hotel stays that they plan on building hotels, and I just, you know, and to see that piece of land and having all that in one area, I just don't think it's possible.
It's a state-of-the-art facility that our kids have an opportunity to utilize that they wouldn't in other situations. I mean, would you not want your kid to be able to participate in an event like
Yes,
that?
but
That's-
what's the detrimental effects that it'll have on the city of Evlos, the city of Gilbert? Yeah, the schools would be saving, but would they? How much is
No,
it
but
gonna
you're-
cost for us to rent those facilities to have the meets there?
We don't even know that. I mean, that's
Right.
just the dream building, but
Right.
to prematurely say that you don't want to have a conversation about it.
No, I didn't
we're not
say
talking
that. I
about
just
today,
said
in
I'm
our
not-
future, we're talking about our kids' future.
I'm not a supporter, and you said it too at the meeting, Mike, you said, you know, that you weren't a big supporter as of now, probably because you didn't,
No, I
like
said
the
it was
rest of us.
It was an interesting conversation.
Yeah.
I was the only one that spoke up.
No, it
That said
sounded
it
good.
It would be a great conversation to have. And it was interesting. I'd love to
I
see
mean,
how
it
goes.
sounds good, but I just don't know what type of effect it would have on the communities. You know, are you paying the community, city of Gilbert's gonna be, the taxpayers of Gilbert gonna be paying for a facility in Virginia? I mean, I don't know if that would, you know,
Again, I think we need to prioritize what we're looking at doing. If we can look at, you know, what it would cost, what our options are for doing an athletic facility. I'm gonna throw it out there in Gilbert, do an athletic facility, maybe collaborating with, you know, a city hall or fire department, somehow
Are you,
incorporated into that, or, and the
hear-
one campus.
I hear you. But are you suggesting that we use that type of collaboration with the fire department, the city hall or whatnot to tap into funds?
Well, I'm wondering if that's an option, you know,
No,
to
that's
reduce
not.
the costs, at
No,
all
it really
for the taxpayers, if we were to do, because if we're one,
Well-
you know, Evelyn and Gilbert School District working on our own to move students into one town to educate the students, and then another another town has the athletic facilities, you know, if we need to, that's gonna be costly too. You know, and people aren't willing to pay double their taxes for something to happen.
Right.
So, and maybe this, as far as the school, we had talked a little bit about doing something in collaboration with the tech school or with Masabi. Is that still an option,
Well, we're doing it right now.
you know, building wise?
As far as the collaboration money, that's with another school.
Yeah.
I mean,
Just,
For the sake of time.
just for the sake of throwing it out there, and I don't know if you caught when Dr. Schmidt was talking at the last Virginia meeting, but when he was talking about the Alexandria visit. And so I just so everybody around here is understanding what he's talking about. I mean, if that is a direction that this board decides to do, that we're talking about the academy, that is not something a school of 500 can do. I mean, he made that very clear. Alexandria's got about 4,000 students in the 9 through 12. We've got about 250. So, if that is a direction that, you know, if you take this visit and you decide, boy, this is something that we really should be looking at for our kids, keep that in the back of your mind that it's not gonna happen here. So, when we're making that master plan, I mean, and I think at that point, like Mike said, to his point, I mean, if that's not an option for you guys, then we need to stop doing it, we need to stop wasting time. Because that's, either we're in that, or we're not gonna be in that. I mean, I think we're at that point.
That's huge, and I did not get that.
Huh?
So I don't know if other people got that, I did not get that part, so thank you for clarifying
I just
it.
thought, before we
Yeah.
even get on the
No,
bus to go
thank
down
you.
there, I want you to make sure that you're aware of that. And it doesn't mean that it has to be a complete consolidation, but 9 through 12 are gonna have to be in the same building somewhere to make that happen.
and that's kind of what he alluded to the very first night when he had his chicken scratch map. I mean, he kind of, being straight up, he kind of drove it home.
Yeah, I mean, that has nothing to do with K through 8, I mean, that's 9 through 12.
Do they use that track in the winter time? Do they use it in the winter, or is this a summer
No.
one?
Spring,
What would be the cost of the landscaping outfit come in and remove that sod? I mean, sod comes off pretty easy, you can.
I don't think that that's really an issue, Tom. I mean, if you guys want the sod out, I
We're
mean,
we're talking safety issues too, but we haven't had any safety issues with that track in how many years? But now we have safety issues like Brandy brought up where, and.
no, it's not
They're
that,
running down the street.
Tommy, it's not that there were kids getting hurt left and right. I mean, it's a matter of, there was something there that probably shouldn't have been there.
There was
i.e. a brick
potential.
wall. There was potential. And when you see potential, you have to do something about it.
Or could you pad the wall? In case they hit the
No,
line.
that was the concrete, Tom. When the part of the end zone was encompassed in one corner by the block, by the, whatever it was there at one time, I don't know, yeah. I mean, so that had to come out, so at least if they're running for a touchdown, they wouldn't have to jump up on that part of, you know, because, you know, I mean, you're going full bore or whatever running, that they wouldn't have to jump up on top of that wall that extended into the end zone. I think, what was it, probably 4 feet into the end zone, and of course it was up, it all depends on where you were standing, it went from probably 1 foot to 3 feet maybe,
Yeah.
so,
But, and then the other thing is, if you look at the contour of that football field, I mean, the 0 yard line to 0 yard line, I mean, it's typically what you see a crown field, but then it dips down into the end zone. And I mean, it's just not a great situation for a lot of reasons. I mean, and I'm not telling you that the sod fixed all the problems up there, because it really didn't, but there's still many more to go. It was a $5,000 Band-Aid that we slapped on it to
I have
hopefully
a
get through another
question
year.
on the track. Now, it was a practice track only. If it's a practice track only, what is the safety issue of going from track to grass to track when you're running?
it's, Well,
Track is one sport I've never done, so I don't know.
I think
That's
it's,
why.
I think it's the fact that you can't, so you can't adequately practice. I mean, so you learn to run on different types of surfaces, and if you're sitting there switching up the type of surface, and it's all about speed, and when you pick up speed, and when you slow down, I mean, and you're not,
Just asking, I'm not
I mean,
arguing that.
well, and I'm not, you know, I mean, but it's, you're not at, so even the track that our current track isn't necessarily what they ideally run on for meets and everything, but even with our current track, they really did well, which is very impressive, and
Yeah.
part of me kind of thinks like, I can't wait to get them a really nice track where they can actually train on something that is up to par, and my gosh, we could actually be getting a lot of
And
kids
if our-
to state positive, I mean,
My follow-up question is, if that is the option we go by removing the sod, do we have enough time to do that at the end of the football season?
football season's done.
Is it?
Yes.
So-
There would have been one
Playoffs?
home game, that if we had, there would have been one home game this coming week,
Okay.
had we had a better record. But now we're playing in Lincoln tomorrow night.
Me personally, I coached track for 12 years. I wouldn't have brought my kids up there. I wouldn't. I mean, I would rather have them running on the football field on the grass than running on that dirt with those hard corners. I mean, I wouldn't, and the boys feel that way. I mean, if you notice, they have been. Ms. Kersey feels otherwise, and that's what you're dealing with right now. That's the decision you have to make. I mean, you want to, the boys are fine. They don't want to go up there. So, I mean, that's what it comes down to. I mean, if you want to
What's
take
it-
the sod out, take the sod out.
What's the cost to roll it up and take it out?
Take it out,
Yeah.
I don't know, we can.
I mean, let's work together, there's something we can take out and put back right one as soon as they're done.
Well, it will die, but,
Well, yeah, I don't think you're gonna
Roll
put
it
it
up.
back.
It won't
It's
last.
done already.
I mean, it won't last.
That's just it, I mean, do we really want them to go back on that muddy track anyway? I mean, if this is an opportunity to try to do something better, to Brandy's point, I mean, why don't we
But the point
see
is,
it?
for the, sorry, Mike,
No, that's fine.
for the sake of time, I mean, we've got 18 minutes here and we still haven't come up with a solution for the
Solution.
spring. So we need a solution for the spring. Are we gonna take off the sod? Are we gonna have that discussion? Are we going to ask them to train in Virginia at the later training time of 5 o'clock or whatever it is?
Is that
Are we
true? I
gonna-
mean, that's the thing, I mean, if Virginia's an option, what is the option? I mean, I
Well,
want
I'm
to
thinking it's gonna
detail.
be after their tricks are done.
Can they
Is it-
practice together?
That's what I said, I mean, that's, we're assuming things, and I think we need to know the details before we start
Do
making
we know that
assumptions.
answer?
So maybe we have,
Do we know that answer, what time they train over there? I mean,
Is it possible for our kids to
It
go to
is.
Virginia and
It is
Track.
possible for us to use it. As far as what time it is, that hasn't been determined yet. I mean, I did ask the question, I mean, because I mean, you can have 10 teams that meet there, so I mean, it's,
so, but our practice time is after Virginia is done with their practice.
we don't know
We
for
don't
sure,
know
we
that.
have to,
we would have to see if, I mean, that worst case scenario, yes. Could they practice together? I
So that
don't
means
know.
they done with school at 3, they wouldn't be able to practice till 5.
well, we don't know that.
Okay,
So-
We don't know
this
that.
is what I think we should do. We should, could
because
you-
no decisions are made today in a work
Right,
session anyways.
I mean, maybe, Ms. Curry, you got something to say?
I had a child in track for 6 years. We are not allowed to practice with them. We go when they are done at 5:30 at night, if they want us to. There's been days when we have been scheduled to go over there and 3 o'clock in the afternoon, nope, sorry, you can't come over, for whatever reason. So,
Well, there's new people there now. I mean, the athletic director's new, but
So we
well,
have
I'm
to
just
get
saying,
someone
that's,
to
the last
reschedule.
6 years, that's how it's been.
We have a different relationship with them today.
But thank you,
So-
Ms. Curry.
So can we ask you to find out what the cost would be to remove the sod? So we have that as an option to look at.
I would probably just have our guys go up there and pick it up.
And then, find out from the athletic director if we are able to use the track over there in Virginia. The, you know, the logistics of it all and any other option that you can think of or come up with for this spring, because we need to have something in place before track starts.
All right, I'll have that for you by the November board meeting.
If
Thank
we-
you.
And before the project.
If we end up doing the practice
For
over
the process.
Virginia, we would need to get a contract so that in the future, calling us at 3 o'clock saying you can't use it isn't
I don't know what that.
Yeah.
But making sure that if that were, that we had an
Have a
agreement or
contract.
something, some type of. You should have just said you shoot it. Okay.
So Jeff, you're going to have the sod removed.
No,
Okay, you're going to look into the potential, or the,
what it would cost, and then also the logistics of our Virginia. We're looking at options, not solutions.
And then we'll vote on it in our next meeting.
Because something has to be in place before the spring comes.
well, you'd have to have it out of there before, you'd have to have the sod out of there before spring.
Well, we don't have to, preferably,
Well,
or else it's gonna delay it and push everything back.
If we end up
But-
voting to remove it, yes, it has to be.
done now, before the process, then, yes.
I think to get an opinion from a landscaper, you could take that sod out, you could take it out and roll it, you could put it someplace, it'll keep till spring. If you wanna lay it back in, you can lay it back.
Jeff is gonna look into that.
Yeah, so you gotta get a little landscaper, okay?
But, yeah, and Jeff will figure it out.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry.